Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. For many, meetings are a regular part of the work experience. But sadly, all too often, meetings can be too long, disorganized, and maybe even unnecessary sometimes. Remember, some meetings can realistically be replaced with an email or a memo. As we move through this latest work revolution, it's important that meetings keep up with the everyday changes and requirements that are part of the experience. And while meetings are still necessary in many circumstances and for many people, it's important that meetings keep up with the times. Meeting styles, for example, need to be able to evolve over time in order to be successful. This means accounting for general changes, but also accounting for virtual meetings and hybrid meetings where some people attend in person and some virtually. How do we make the most out of each and every meeting? First, let's consider whether or not the meeting is necessary. You may be surprised by the answer. Some meetings could be replaced by something as simple as an informative email or memo. It's important that your meeting has a definite purpose, goal, and agenda. It goes without saying, be prepared for your meeting. Don't try to wing it. That's where things tend to fall apart. Consider things such as, will the meeting be recorded, or will somebody be taking meeting notes? That's all part of preparation. What about general housekeeping and accounting for potential interruptions? This is all part of preparation. Know how you will handle such things so that when something doesn't go as planned, you're not going off the rail. Be ready to start and end your meeting on time. Nothing worse than a meeting that starts late and doesn't seem to end. Be considerate of others and their other responsibilities and potential meetings or appointments. Before you start the meeting, get the physical space in order. Make sure that everybody has a comfortable place to sit and potentially take notes, and that people aren't crowded. When it comes to virtual participants or attendance of meetings, make sure that they have a good way of participating. First and foremost, take care of your technology so that the meeting can be broadcasted virtually for those who attend in this way. It's also important to take care of your technology on site. So if you're giving presentations or anything that requires technology, take care of that before you start. Things such as sound and lighting are also important. Make sure to tend to those as well. Whether we're considering people who are joining you in person on site or those who are joining virtually, make sure that everybody can see equally well. And if you have any materials or handouts that are pertinent to the meeting, ensure that both virtual attendees and those who are there in person get the same material before the meeting begins. Be prepared for questions. Establish whether questions can be asked throughout the meeting or If perhaps you have a presentation that's part of the meeting, maybe you want to save a time for Q&A after the presentation, and make sure that everybody has a way of asking a question. It's easy for those who are in a meeting or presentation in person to raise their hand and ask a question. But for those who attend virtually, it may be all too easy to get ignored. So make sure you're accounting for everybody's ability to ask questions. Whether people are asking questions, participating in the meeting, or giving a presentation of their own, ensure that they can be heard by everybody. That means people who are there in person and people who are joining virtually. Sometimes a microphone may be required for each speaker. Stick to the agenda, keep the meeting concise, and keep to your topic. Sometimes meetings can go off on side tangents, but those may really just be other meetings or perhaps memos or emails that need to be accounted for in the future. Don't let your meeting get derailed. As you can see, a lot of what we're talking about here are simple, logical suggestions, but those are the things that will ensure your meeting to be as successful as possible. It's clear that preparation is key. While having impromptu meetings may seem like a good idea, maybe thought of as sexy or creative, having too many of those can really derail a person's day. Successful meetings can be seen as a combination, both art and science. It takes some preparation and incorporating some of the simple suggestions presented here. The end result is a meeting that is to the point, on task, starts and ends on time, and accomplishes its goal. You want your meetings to get a reputation of something that is productive and something that people don't mind attending, rather than an unpredictable runaway train that never starts on time, sticks to the topic, and seems to last forever. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Meetings are an important part of the business world, and for many, meetings are a regular part of their work experience. Meetings don't have to be time wasters if some simple suggestions and guidelines are followed. Preparation is a big part of the success of your meetings. Once you decide that a meeting is truly warranted, define your purpose, goal, and agenda, and stick to it. Take the time to prepare and account for things such as housekeeping and recording the meeting or note-taking. Start and end your meetings on time. Be respectful of other people's schedules. Take care of the physical space as well as the technology for the virtual connection before the meeting starts. Make sure that everybody can see you or the presenter and that everyone has a way of asking questions. If there are materials or handouts that are pertinent to the meeting, ensure that everybody gets their copies. Ensure that everybody can be heard, whether that means asking questions or participating in the meeting or giving a presentation. After all, meetings are intended to be interactive. They're not intended to be strict lectures where nobody else other than the presenter gets to be heard in any way. Stick to your agenda and keep things concise. You want your meetings to be remembered as a good thing, not as something to dread or to avoid. As the week unfolds, I invite you to think about your own meetings and your own meeting style. If you are in charge of a meeting, how would you rank yourself when compared to the list of suggestions presented here? Is there room for improvement? I imagine that for many, the answer is yes. Take what you've learned here today and apply it to your own experience to have better meetings and to give others that experience of a better, more productive meeting. For those of you who are experiencing this podcast in an audio-only version, I invite you to check out my YouTube channel where you can find the podcast in a video version. In addition to my podcast, my YouTube channel also contains videos that focus on stress management. So I invite you to check that out. The link for my YouTube channel is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.